The sinking of the Titanic, the death of over 1,000 people. Does anyone care that some rich people died? What if they died because some people wanted them dead? Today we're talking about the death of John Jacob Astor. There's some conflicting reports about exactly how much money he had. But at the time of his death, he was one of the richest people in the world. He was born into wealth as the grandson of the guy who founded the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. But he parlayed that initial capital into one of the largest fortunes in the world. He owned a ton of stuff, including half of the Waldorf Astoria, a bunch of vineyards in France, and large swaths of land across the U.S., including the entire state of Delaware. In 1912, he was going to Europe to meet a woman he recently became engaged to. They were apparently getting married when she returned to America. And since he was worth literally hundreds of millions of dollars today, he could afford to charter an entire ship to get him there quickly and comfortably. And that's what he did, sort of. You see, there were two ships available to him, the nearby Olympic and the slightly more distant Titanic. He booked passage on the Titanic and paid for a lavish suite that he planned a honeymoon in. But 2 weeks before the ship was set to leave, he canceled and booked passage on the Olympic instead. But why would someone as rich as John Jacob Astor cancel a cross-Atlantic voyage on the height of his engagement and wealth? Did he have some kind of premonition? Well, according to a conspiracy theory, he got wind that the Titanic was actually a setup. See, the shipping company that owned these boats, the White Star Line, had almost identical ships, the Olympic and the Titanic. And while they were both very luxurious for the time period, the Titanic was cutting edge, featuring things like a swimming pool and an a la carte dining menu. Also, it turned out, these ships were built with fatal flaws. The rivets holding together the hull of the ship were substandard, which is important. The conspiracy goes that the Olympic had been damaged in a previous voyage and the cost of fixing it was so great that the White Star Line owners wanted to get rid of it. So they switched the nameplates, pocketed the insurance money, and let the Titanic sink. Sounds crazy, right? Well, there are a few problems with that theory. First, the Titanic wasn't fully insured. Only the cargo hold was insured, which means that the White Star Line couldn't recoup even a fraction of what they spent on the ship. Second, there are pictures of the Titanic that show that the ship as hull numbers line up with the Titanic, and not the Olympic. Third, survivors describe the ship that they were on as being older and run down, which matches the description of the Olympic not